Speed.
Rolling.
Flow
You're in.
Episode 5, take 1.
Ah! You okay, mate?
Ow! No fiddling with your prop. Psst. Phone's on stun. Oh. Oh, I can take my glasses off, too.
Oh. Lens flare.
Looks
this
muy
is
inteligente.
All right. You tell us when you're ready, Raleigh.
Yeah, they're just moving the ladder right there.
Gotcha.
Okay, guys, let's try one out.
Hey.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Shuffle and Flow Show. This is Nathan, this is Aaron, I'm Michael. And before we get started, we're at Roxanne's in Long Beach. Roxanne's Bar and Grill,
Thanks, Roxanne's.
come visit them. They've been so gracious to allow us to film here.
They have been. We're in a working space right now, so you might hear some people moving around us, but it adds to the whole atmosphere.
Hey, so on this episode, we wanted to discuss sort of the idea behind moving past the everyday dancer mode into the big picture of life and what comes next after our bodies break down, or we have an injury, or we are moved somewhere and we can't access our main career and we have to create something else. How does that come about, and what gives us the special skills as dancers to be able to transition into something else? Nathan, how do you feel about that?
I think this is a great thing to talk about because dance really, for me, dance translates into everything, into anything that it is that you feel like you want to do. I've always said to my dance students, I've always encouraged them to have another passion, whether besides just dance. Like for Jeff Amson, it's riding horses, or Victor Manuel riding horses. For me, it was always golf or some other thing. Scott Benson, golfing. He's a scratch golfer, and there's always something that.
My other passion was drinking, but that's another story.
Those days are over.
Long gone.
Mine's still is. But you've had passion for design, for choreography, for
absolutely
for producing and directing. I mean, I think dance translates. If you wanted to be any aspect of the industry, dance translates into, because our aspect of it is harder than anybody else's, in my opinion. Because not only are you selling yourself as a product, you have to keep yourself super fine-tuned, and you're not really getting a whole lot of appreciation for that. So it's a really difficult aspect of the industry, of the entertainment industry, to be in. If you wanted to translate from dance into, say, a makeup artist or wardrobe stylist,
to be a dresser,
or I translated into to be a dresser. I was behind the camera for years as a DP, been a gaffer, I've been a grip, I've done audio, I've done all kinds of aspects of. I was not happy with what I was seeing, how I was seeing dance shot. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just do it myself and figure out how to shoot it myself so it looks how I want it to look. Duh. And ended up making my living at it for a good 10, 12 years, and. As well as dance. I'm still, doing dance gigs here and there, but you do 10 dance gigs a year. It's still not enough. That's not a living.
Yeah. No.
And that's a lot of gigs, actually.
And there are a lot of people that are just scraping by on those 6, 8, 10 jobs a year. And it goes back to the point of, as dancers, sometimes we get caught in this dance bubble where nothing else exists outside of our dance studio and our dance life and our dance relationships and our instrument. And for so long, and that can be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
To be so focused,
absolutely.
That's
to
what
be
makes
so
it good.
driven.
But the back end.
The back end, it is you lose out on what has been happening on outside of life, right? On
and then sometimes you're so deep in that, life hits you with something because you weren't paying attention. We've all had that happen to us. Where,
I have to pay taxes. Is that a thing? I have to pay taxes. Okay.
Oh, she wants a divorce. Why? I'm awesome.
I'm totally awesome.
On the road? What? Why?
After I stopped performing full time, I went into producing and directing. But during those down times, when you have the energy and the time and the wherewithal to do something new, I always wanted to learn something new that would add to my life, whether it was becoming a real estate agent just to buy land and property to build my portfolio, or to become as a designer because I really enjoyed building houses. To have something different, like you said, have another passion that you can have that outlet.
He's also a pilot. He's also a Pilates instructor. He's like, there's nothing he doesn't do.
We as dancers like to learn. We love to be challenged, and we get real bored. I think we get bored easily as dancers. We always want to be challenged and do something harder and better. We want to be better than that guy over there and that guy over there and get that job. I don't know. I think it's a very, you have to have a certain self-motivation to move forward in dance, and because of that, you can translate it to another profession.
Nothing is as hard. So anything you're going to try to do after that is kind of, it's a little easier, at least in my experience. It's not.
Indeed.
That's not an end-all statement, but
no.
It's to be a professional dancer and to make a good living at it is a really difficult endeavor, a difficult undertaking, and if you can achieve that, then everything else is a little bit easier after that.
Oftentimes, those other passions will come forward when we can't execute our main passion. So as an artist, if you're down because of an injury or you've moved or you want to be able to say, hey, I'm smart enough, I can do something else, I can learn something else, and move me forward creatively. Through those dark times, oftentimes, another epiphany, another window will open up in your life that you had no idea would have happened without that dark time. Have you come out of dark times thinking that you'd never, life would just be shit, and then that dark time created something new and beautiful for you?
Every day I wake up. No, absolutely. I think we had this conversation earlier. You used the analogy of the lotus flower coming up through the mire, the mud. You know, out of the shit comes something quite beautiful. And at this age now, because I've got a few more runs on the board, I can look back and not. I can get a little bit uptight and fearful and go, what's going on? Nothing's happening. I don't know where I'm going. I'm lost. But you go, it's cyclical. Everything comes around, and you've got to hang in there. And in those dark times, you don't know where it's leading. It's shaping you. It's forging you for whatever's coming next. I mean, I never wanted to be a choreographer. I'm a shit choreographer. Yeah, I used to teach for class and all that sort of thing. But after my first hip replacement, and I wasn't doing anything. I had no work, feeling sorry for myself, trying to recoup my body. There was nothing going, and I've got a mortgage, and, kids and responsibilities, and feeling sorry for myself and thinking I'm never going to work again. My life's over. Then the other thing also too, you don't know what's around the corner, and someone can call you and offer you an opportunity, and you have to be open to it. And so I get called to go to Cuba to audition ballet dancers because the guy putting this show together didn't know what he was looking at, didn't know who was good and who wasn't good. So 2 days later, I end up in Havana. So pay me out there, have a good time in Havana, nice dinner, drinks, and audition some good talent. And then from there, he's like, well, do you want to be a part of this and help us put this together? I'm thinking to myself, well, Jesus, I didn't feel comfortable, but I had no other work, so what else am I going to do? And it's better than waiting tables, because and I actually have a lifetime of dance, so I know a little bit about it. So you go, yeah, okay, great. And I was shitting myself. I was absolutely shitting myself because and judging myself every step of the way. This product's going to be crap, it's going to be terrible, but there's always that other little voice inside your head that says, no, just calm down, breathe. All right, you can do this. You've had a lifetime of dance. You can stick a couple of steps together. You can get through this. And little bit by little bit, you build up a little bit of confidence, and you stretch yourself. You put yourself into that uncomfortable position. And, I was fortunate enough to work with another guy who was an asshole, but it was a very good choreographer, and he challenged me and it pushed me. And my competitive side, like you just said, came out and was like, right, no, I'm not going to be shit. I'm going to, I put in the work and work harder. And next minute, I've got a choreographic career, which I never wanted, but that came out, so I was like, thank you, God. And it's probably over the last sort of 9 years kept me alive.
And that's Ballet Revolution
Revolution, yeah.
out of Cuba.
Out of Cuba, yeah.
And they're still active.
Still active.
They're still touring.
Still touring. We just finished our last tour, which was Europe and Australia. That was at the end of June. They're going to go back out again in February. So I think we're doing Europe again, and then Asia, and then hopefully we're in talks right now for the United States.
Nice.
So
That'd be awesome.
would be amazing. I mean, look, we're not reinventing the wheel. It's a commercial dance show, but the dances are amazing, and they make my half-ass shit look okay. You know?
Dancers can do that. They can take the worst movement, and a great dancer can make it look fabulous.
It's back to what you guys were saying,
Right.
how it translates into, like in any career then, you know what the lengths you need to go to make something work. And it's the same when you get a shitty choreography. And you know you just need to add a little bit more, okay, you add that spice, that little missing ingredient.
Do you think that self-motivation, that self-drive is innate in the dancer species, or is it acquired, or do some people have it and some people don't?
I think whether you're in dance or you're not in dance, I think that's a quality, that's a human trait. Some people are driven, some people aren't. Because I know there's certain dancers that I came up with at the age of 15, 16, they were amazing. They danced rings around me because I was never the best, the most talented, but I worked my ass off. And by the time I was 19, they couldn't shine my boots. And they were always like the golden kids, but they stopped working on themselves. And I think that translates into any walk of life, any whatever career or whoever you are, it's a human being.
And that plays into humility.
Yeah, humanity. I think there's, human beings, some are driven, some aren't.
Right.
It's the same in dance.
Right. So you don't have that drive, if you don't have that self-motivation, maybe a life of independence isn't for you. An independent artist isn't for you. Because it really does take every day waking up going, okay, who am I going to call? Who am I going to visit? What class am I going to take?
Yeah.
It's being a professional dancer and a classroom dancer are such different animals. The business of dance is quite.
It's taking a leap off the cliff to try to do it, because you have to commit to being available, which is a huge one. It's hard to understand, but you have to commit to. If you book yourself up with all these little dinky little jobs, which I did for years, all these little industrial gigs and little, but I really wanted to do movies and commercials and concert tours. And when I finally realized that if I say no to the small gigs, I'll be available for the big gigs. When I had turned down Michael Kidd job. I turned down Jerome Robbins Broadway. Hello. Duh. What a dumb move that was. You know what I mean?
You would have been so good in that show.
Yeah. For about 6 months until my body broke down. And then
I know, but you were built for that show. You were built for that show.
Oh, well, and that's okay. That was a career choice.
That was a time in LA, and I turned it down too. We both got offered Jerome Robbins Broadway, and for me, it was a financial decision.
Me too.
I was making
when the
so
casting
much
director
money.
calls you at home and says, "Don't take the job," Jay Bender, and then Grover Dale calls me at home and says, "Don't take the job." I'm like, these are people that I respect.
Yeah. So in dance, it's not just about who and what I'm going to be able to dance, but how am I going to survive? And how is this job going to help me move forward financially?
Yeah.
Right? How am I going to get more secure?
A lot of money doing
for sure.
it. Yeah.
For sure.
$1,100 a week in New York doesn't go very far, and then they only offer us a 6-month contract.
Right.
You can't really get a lease.
You can't do that.
You can't mooch off of people's couches for that long, or whatever.
When
Could have made it work.
I probably would have.
Aaron was talking about his work with Twyla on the last episode, and I wanted to touch about the life of a concert dancer in juxtaposition of a share dancer. So there's a popular rock and roll, jazz dance, thrash movement, and then you are suddenly put into Twyla Tharp's company
With Baryshnikov.
On classical movement, modern movement, discipline, very, very specific movement. How did that work with your psychology?
Well, Cher's warm up with the long hair. With Bubba and I'd be there, we're about to go exactly like
I warmed up.
Let's go. Twyla, no, you're in the studio maybe like 8:30 in the morning, warming up. Class might start at 9, or maybe you're there at 9. Class starts at 9:30, 10. and then you've got an hour and a half class to get through, and then you've got rehearsals all day to get through, and then you've got a show to do at night, and it's notes and it's on the body, and then the touring, you're not in the same town, but it's hard too with rock and roll stuff, and I would always do my bar and prepare and all that stuff, but the hardest I've ever worked was probably like that 18 months in that period doing that. But my body was there was a point I remember, and you guys might feel the same way, when in my mind what I wanted to do, I could actually pull it off with my body.
Yeah.
I was that finely trained and skilled, and I could and I could do it. And
it's visualization.
Yeah,
right?
but also
Divers
the
do
training.
it,
But the training, the body, as the mechanics of it, and you've doing class every day, and that's where classical ballet is the best. And the precision of it, and being able to think of something and do it. I want to do 5 pirouettes. I want to take the foot from passe down, then into fifth, and then keep turning, do another 2 here, and then bring it back up there, and then finish in Alice
right.
like that. And I could pull it off and do it, and everything was placed, and I wasn't hopping and on. I'd finish like that, bam, and then I'd step out of it. Having that control. That was amazing. But the grind of it, honestly, it was tired and fatigued, and your body's always aching and hurting. And I think there's also something very masochistic to dancers, because you get
Absolutely.
if it doesn't hurt, you're not doing it right, and you're always carrying injuries.
It's a hair shirt is what it is. Flogging
Exactly right. That's exactly right. We flog ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm still like that now. If I don't walk out of the gym and it's like, as you get older, you can pace yourself, but at a younger age, you got to break it. You got to and that's probably why we're broken.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I think Jackie Slight called it with me. She was like, if he keeps dancing like that, and by 27 he's going to have knee surgery. And she was right. She was right. Yeah. She called it.
Most definitely. When you were on tour with Paula, did you come into the same sort of drudgery? Did you feel it was a drudgery, or did you feel it was the excitement of touring the world?
Oh, it was such excitement, and it was so cool for me because I had just come out of a couple years before I had co-founded Dancers Alliance.
Yes.
And also gone through some legal stuff with Kenny and Greg Smith and that sort of stuff, and I had basically been blacklisted. I was down to teaching in Agora 1 day a week and doing extra work on a different world. And then I got fired for being white, which is funny.
You've never been good
hilarious.
at being
I've
white.
never been good at that. I know. It was devastating. But and Michael Peters had gotten me that job. He walked me into Debbie Allen and said, "This is the guy. This is the one you want. He's one of the few that can actually do what you want him to do." Yeah. And then she fired me. And then but I was broke. And I quit my job teaching in Agora because I said, I'm going to go on tour with Paula Abdul. And they were like, yeah, right. You're a nobody. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm a nobody. You're right. I went to the audition. I didn't even get an audition for the job. My agent had not called me. That's how low on the totem pole I was. Because nobody wanted to work with me because I was a troublemaker.
But you'd worked with Paula earlier.
I'd worked with Paula before, but I had also had a falling out with her because she had well, she lied to us, and then also was trying to force us to buy our own tap shoes, which were like $120
For the gig.
For the gig, and they were going to get ruined because she was like, "You're going to be tap dancing in Champaign in a warehouse." I'm like, "Yeah, that's a hose on the floor in a warehouse. You're going to be all wet, and you're going to ruin the $120 tap shoes. We're only making $600 on the gig." She was like, "Fuck you!" I was like, "Fuck you!" Like, "Fuck you!" Like, "Fuck you!" And I had tap shoes, which is hilarious.
Oh my goodness.
Poor Michael Rooney and Alex Magno didn't have them. And I was like, this is just wrong. It was wrong what you're doing. So I had gotten blacklisted to a large extent and auditioned for her tour. I called Bill Bowl, who we were talking about earlier.
3-day audition.
3 day, yeah. I called him on Friday night. He said, come in Monday morning. So I bypassed my agent. I called my agent and I said, I'm no longer with you. She's like, oh, I was just going to call you to tell you I got tickets to your wedding. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is hilarious. Yeah, so awkward. So 3-day audition, and I luckily I booked the job, and I was so excited because this was like a rebirth of Nathan Prevost as one of the top pros in LA. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And I was really my training wise, I was in class every single day. More than I was probably taking 2 or 3 classes a day, and I was loving it. And I was right in that part where you're talking about where. I could execute exactly the way I wanted to execute everything that I wanted to execute. And the hardest stuff for me at that time was Jackie Slight's choreography because it was this pulled up jazz style that was also you had to travel. You had to get from here to there in 3 steps.
That's right.
And the footwork was so important, and it was so clean and so crisp, and you had to. She asked you to do this crazy. It was so technical, and you had to be in really, really, really fine shape to do it. And I was doing it. I was really, really executing it, and not just executing it, but excelling at it and feeling great in it. And then there was Joe Bennett, who we haven't even talked about in this series, but he was an
jazz teacher,
incredible influence on my dance. Yeah. And he didn't even charge me for class. I'm not taking money from you. You're living in your car. I'm not taking money from you.
I love it.
And he was an amazing man. Still is an amazing man. Anyways, yes, Paula's tour was I was so excited, and I got married. Had the audition, got married like 3 weeks later. The rehearsals weren't going to start till August, so we had like a month-long honeymoon. Did not take any classes, not do anything. Walked into rehearsals for 8 hours a day for 3 months. We were ruined before we even started the tour.
Oh my goodness.
Our bodies were ruined.
I remember.
They brought in all kinds of crazy choreographers like Danielle Ezralo that never used it. Yeah, Morley Steinberg. She never used any of her stuff and their stuff. Maybe a little bit of Morley's, but she laughed.
You did all the flying and
did a bunch of flying and stilt walking and all that kind of stuff, and it was such a fantastic job. Yeah. Really well directed and choreographed shows. It was choreography by committee.
Who directed it?
Horny Horns, Jeffrey Hornaday, with Jerry Evans as the supervising choreographer, and they were best. They had been friends since they came to town. Right, and their company Friends with Steve Merritt.
That's right.
They were really they'd known each other and had trained together deeply in the 70s, and so they knew each other really well, and that was I was more excited about that job than I'd ever been excited about any job in my life. I was like I've made it. I've arrived, and then I got home, had knee surgery. I got home from did our last tour. Last show.
9 months, 10 months?
It was a year.
Year
tour. 100 shows in a year, something like that, or more. Asia, all over Canada and the U.S. and did our last show at Universal Amphitheater in L.A. So it was like a big, all of your friends get to see you doing your thing, and it was we were doing all of our biggest, best tricks, but I had my meniscus was detached in my knee, completely floating around, and they were in the right knee, so I got home, I had knee surgery the next week. That week, my wife also left me, so I lost my house, my cats, my job, and everything all in 1 week. So I was went from the top of the world, performing at Universal Amphitheater, to being bam down.
Welcome
6
to
months
show
later,
business.
6 months later, I had $60 in the bank. My wife had spent all of our money.
That you made on tour.
Yeah,
she spent all your money.
All of it.
That you had
I
sent
only
home.
found out recently that she had rented a house without me knowing it in Ojai. I found that out last year.
He sent all of his tour money home.
Yeah, I know.
She spent it.
I know.
She spent it
and also becoming
on
rich
psychics
too,
and stuff. Yeah, trying to be doing
Wiccan
some table tipping and stuff.
Yeah.
And so this is a perfect example of
rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
This is a perfect example of a super dark time, right?
Oh yeah.
Super dark. So
Super
you went
dark
into
time.
a depression.
Yeah.
Absolutely, huge,
right?
hugely.
You're trying to heal this knee.
Yeah, it was I'm like, oh,
and it's
everything's
swollen,
done.
and you can't even move.
Yeah.
You're without a house, a wife, a cat. What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do from here? I want to know your mental state on how you dug yourself out of that dark area and what
I
became
searched
of it.
out anybody or anything that could help me, anything and everything. Whether it was, I did a lot of yoga, I did a lot of meditating, I did a lot of physical therapy. I was doing Pilates. I was doing everything that I could figure out and find. We had an acupuncturist on tour with us on Paula's tour, Shen. May he rest in peace as well. We had become really good friends on tour, and I had already a deep background in the human body and knowing how it works, knowing how it operates, and he was teaching me a lot. And so I would go see him. He didn't have any office. He had just moved to LA after the tour because he wanted to live there and do that, and had met all these awesome people on our tour. And so I would go over to his house, and he'd work on me. He'd give me needles and needles and needles and needles, and we'd work out a trade, or I'd pay him somehow, or figure out, or he'd do it for free, or stuff. So I was working hard to get my body back in shape. And I knew one of the things that I knew is that I wanted to teach dance. I was enjoying teaching dance in Ogura. I can't remember the name of the studio, but I knew I didn't like dealing with the parents, but I loved dealing with the kids. I loved teaching dance and passing on what I had learned from other, amazing teachers and choreographers that I'd been fortunate enough to work with. So Scott Benson, bless his heart, got me the job teaching on convention for Dance Caravan, which is not even in existence anymore, but it was the oldest dance convention we're like the first one, I guess.
Yeah.
From as far as I
Danny
know, it's
Hochter.
where, yeah, exactly. Danny and Betty, and that's
Danny
where Joe
Hochter.
Tremaine started. It's where
Jackie Slade.
yeah, so Scott got me that job for teaching for the summer.
This is
And
during
my
your
knee was
rehab.
still during my
Okay,
rehab.
so, okay.
I was still in a gigantic
Yeah.
metal knee brace, like a skier's, like a football player's knee brace, teaching classes, doing double tours, and still doing my thing and trying to figure it out. And my goal that I wrote down during that was that by the end of the year, I want to be teaching on convention with Michael Chambers, Aaron Cash, and Jackie Slate. And you guys were teaching on Jackie's convention. And I was like, that's where I want to be by the end of the year. And sure enough, it worked out. Like 3 weeks after I got home from that, I didn't even have a house. I was living off of people's couches in
Is
LA.
that right at that time?
Yeah, no apartment, no nothing. My stuff was in storage. My cats were in Sonoma with my mom, because I missed my other cats so much, I went out and got new cats. Doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Yeah, I loved those. They were great. Anyways, finally got a place to live, and within like 3 weeks after getting home, Jackie left me a message, said, "I want you to be teaching next year, but you've got a long way to go. I don't think you can handle it. I'm gonna create a niche for you. You're gonna teach lyrical jazz." I'm like, "Great, awesome, I can do it." She taught me a lot. She taught me how to control a room. That's for sure.
She taught me how to control a room as well.
Yeah.
I'm forever indebted to her.
Absolutely. So many little tricks that she would just
So
pass
many
on.
little tricks.
Awesome tricks too.
So many great tricks. Divide a room. I'd get the room's attention.
Divide and conquer.
It was
Keep
awesome.
the little one's attention. Don't
So
stop for a second.
our point being, you
Yeah.
guys, even though those darkest times where you just think nothing is going to get better and you might as well throw it all in, you can create your own destiny from those dark times. You can reach down deep and pull out the same motivation and discipline that created you as a dancer
in the first place.
to do something more and better and bigger and grander and more full of love. So don't despair. If you're down right now, pick yourself up, start with a small step, and move from there. We appreciate you watching, you guys. If you want to reach out to us, theshuffleandflow@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe, and thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Be kind to each other.
Ciao.